Lauren Fenty, founder and curator of the Bargain Bead Box. And today we're going to be making a simple galaxy necklace from the January 2024 Bargain Bead Box. We've got a bead to represent each of the planets on a nice little double chain here. Let's get to it. Okay, so to get started, we will be using just a few items that were not in the box. I wanted to show those to you. First of all, we've got some gold finished tiger tail wire. This is wire 589 in the Bead Box Bargain store. We've got some crimp beads, Find 1105. And we've got some clamshell bead tips, Find 2131. And we've got some jump rings in various sizes, that's ring 125. Okay, so to get started, we're going to take our clamshell bead tip, open it up just a tiny bit, string it on our wire, which I've pre-cut. I always cut my wire a little long because I'd rather waste a few inches than waste the whole entire thing, and I like to have a little room to work. Alright, so we're going to smush this crimp bead. And I do not have my good crimping pliers with me today, so we're just going to use these guys. They will do the trick though. Alright, we're going to smush the crimp bead. Now we're going to trim off the excess wire. These little wire cutters. Which I just destroyed by cutting my chain with them. There we go. Alright, and now we're going to close the clamshell tip over the crimp bead. And now I like to use the kind of bead tip that has two loops. I'm just going to give it a little squeeze here, make sure it gets nice and shut. This, because I've had the kind that has a little hook before. And I don't like those because I've had the hooks break off on me and then you have to restring the whole thing. So I usually go for the double loop kind. Alright, so now we're just going to start stringing. I'm going to start with one of the 4mm spacer beads. And then I'm going to string on a bicone. And then another spacer bead. And now we've got Mercury. So we're going to go in order from closest to furthest from the sun. This is a Larvikite Labradorite bead representing Mercury. Alright, I'm going to repeat that pattern just real fast. 4mm rounds and the crystal bicone in the middle. Get that shit away. There we go. Okay, and now it's time for Venus, the Cockle Glass bead from January. So now in between each planet, I'm just doing 4mm round, blue bicone for some texture and sparkle. Another round. Alright, next up is Earth, and I picked a nice lapis chrysocolla bead that has some blue and some green on it. Now we repeat our spacer pattern. I really like quick, simple things that I can just put together really quickly as a mom and a business owner. That's what I can reasonably fit in my schedule. Okay, time for Mars, which is the carnelian 8mm round. We repeat the spacer pattern. Next is Jupiter, which had temporarily escaped, but we found it. And this is the 10mm agate round. I picked one that's a little tiny bit stripy. It's got some dark areas that remind me of the red spot, etc. I really like these agates. Okay. Gonna repeat our spacer pattern. And next up is Saturn. So we've got the 8mm jasper bead with a bead frame around it. I'm going to line them up so the holes match, which is easier said than done sometimes. You've got a slightly smaller hole in the frame. There we are. And here we go. So one reason to include Pluto in this design, other than the fact that if you don't, it's on the furthest reaches of the galaxy all by itself in the cold, is that it will help this design be more balanced. You'll have 4 planets on either side of Jupiter, making the larger 10mm bead kind of a natural focal point. But next after Saturn is going to be Uranus, which is this nice blue quartz. kind of an icy blue. Here we go again with a round and a bicone and a round. And then we've got Neptune, which is an 8mm Sodalite round. I really like the swirly dark blue and white. All right, we're gonna repeat that spacer pattern again, round, bicone, round. And then we're gonna do a little moonstone, which you may have moonstone or labradorite. Either one works fine for Pluto. Because Pluto is, I believe. All right, so we're gonna repeat our little spacer pattern for the last time. And we're done with the beaded portion. So we're going to string on, and I'm gonna open it up all the way first. Another clamshell bead crimp, or bead cover. And then another little crimp bead. Well, not him, he's broken. This one, there we go. Okay. And then we're going to squash the crimp again. And I like it to be tight, but not too tight. You want to have a bit of give. You don't want your beads all jammed up right next to each other, but you don't want to show a lot of wire either. So you got to try to kind of find a happy medium. Okay, so we've squished our crimp. Now we're going to get the wire cutters and we're going to trim down the wire. And I'm just going to take my round nose. I'm going to go ahead and get the clamshell started, kind of fold it up by hand, just so I can line it up a little bit. I might need the pliers to fix that. I did not line it up particularly well. And then we're gonna squeeze it the rest of the way shut. And there we go. So this is the beaded portion, and at this point, you could just throw a clasp on it and have a solar system bracelet with this exact same pattern. But we're gonna go ahead and add some double chains with some links to make a necklace. So up first, I'm going to add a sun link over here by Mercury. And then after that, put a couple stars on the other side, kind of balance it. And these will go next to Pluto. All right, so all we need are a couple jump rings. And I'm going to use the 2-plier method. So the thing with jump rings is when you're opening them, you want to pull it towards you. You don't want to uncurl it like up. You don't want to undo the circle. You want to just go out and then back. Otherwise, they'll be uncurled and you'll never get the curl right on it. So once your jump ring is open, you're going to put it through the loops on your clamshell bead tip here. I should have left this on the, here we go. Sometimes it's easier for me if I continue to hold it with the pliers so I can keep it still. Here we go, that's gonna be easier. And now I can just stick the ends on it. Wait, we're supposed to be doing the sun first. Silly me, we'll go on this side. Here we are, so we've got the bead tip attached. Now we're just gonna take the sun. We're gonna stick that top ring on the jump ring. And we're gonna move it back shut. All right, so there's that. All right, so next we're gonna attach the small star over here. And I'm gonna just give this a little straighten up there since I got it slightly out of shape. Okay, so we're gonna open up another jump ring. There we go. Now we're going to take the bead tip and slide it on. There we go, now it's behaving itself. And then we're gonna put our small star on, and I'm gonna make sure it's got this little like knurling starburst texture on one side. So we're gonna watch as we're putting these on and make sure that we get the texture facing the same direction on both those stars. All right, so that star is on inside the jump ring now. So we're just going to close it up. All right. Okay. I'm just going to give it a little pinch with these pliers. There we go. Now we're going to attach our second star over here. And again, I'm going to make sure it's face up the same direction as the first. And we're going to take another jump ring. We're going to string it through. This one's already pretty open, so I think I can work with it. String it through this star. Put this star facing up so that the texture is on the same side. Here, hang on, I have that backwards. There we go. Yep, that'll do it right. And we'll close it up. And then after this, all we have to do is attach the two chain pieces and then attach the clasp. And to measure how long you want your chain pieces to be, I would say hold up, at least this is how I do it. I'm not an exact, if you know in exact inches how long you want your necklace, go for that, that's perfect. Measure your planets, add however many inches you want your chain to be, cut your chain that long. Each chain piece is going to be doubled over, so each one should be exactly as long as you want it. My method is just to hold this up to my neck, decide where I want it to be, and then grab a piece of chain and measure it around that way to fit. Each one should be individually about as long as you want the whole entire necklace to be once assembled, because we're going to double them up on each side. And this just creates a little bit more texture, and especially because this chain does have that knurling on it too. It's got that great starburst texture. It's extra shiny. Two chains sometimes just creates more visual interest than one by itself. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do after we've measured our chain is cut it exactly in half. And you want to be careful if you have an odd number of links that if there's an extra piece left over that you go ahead and take that off too, because you want these to be exactly the same length. So you have two chains now on each side that are exactly the same length. And now all that's left to do is attach the chains to the links and attach the clasp at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started attaching the chains to the links. So I've got a 6mm jump ring here. I'm going to thread it onto the sun charm, and then I'm going to take my first chain and I'm going to thread it onto the jump ring as well, just the very end of it. And I will say one thing, when you're cutting this chain, it may be small, but it is sturdy. I've used my husband's industrial wire cutters because my jewelry ones are nice and I didn't want to, blunt the edges. So it's serious stuff, but that just means it'll hold up really well. Okay, so we're going to close our first jump ring here. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach the clasp half on this side so that this half of the necklace is all done as soon as I untangle the sun there. Alright, so I've got a 4mm jump ring here, and I've got our magnet clasp from the box. And I will say, when it comes to necklaces, I like to use magnet clasps mainly with lightweight designs. If it's going to be a heavy necklace, I'll generally pick either a notched magnet clasp that has some little extra protection to it, or something like a toggle. But for this design, it's lightweight enough that the magnet I've found holds it really nicely. And this size magnet clasp from the box, I've gone ahead and taken the charms off and saved them and make some earrings with them, but it's also perfect for bracelets. So if you were to make a bracelet, you could just pop the other clasp on there and you'd have a matching set. There it goes. Alrighty. So, jump rings do kind of get crowded when you've got all the chain and clasp on it. This magnet clasp is going to try to jump off onto my pliers. see if I can contain it. All right. That's not as sharp as I would like it to be, so I'm going to get it a little more. Okay, so now we've got this side done. And now we have a nice double chain on this side of the necklace. So we're just going to repeat this process on the star side, starting with a 6mm jump ring. Attach that to the big star here. And the chain is detailed on both sides, so you don't have to worry as much about which side of the stars is facing up for this part. As long as they match each other, they're fine. All right, so now we just have to close this jump ring here. There we are. All right, so the last step here is to attach these two chains. And by the way, this step is the point at which you find out if your chains are exactly the same size. Because if they are not, one of them will hang a little strangely. So just keep that in mind. And if you're like me, you probably end up having to trim off an odd numbered chain end every once in a while. All right, we've got our chain on there. So now we're just going to take the magnet clasp and string the other loop onto this jump ring, which connects our necklace. And that clasp always likes to jump up to your pliers, which makes it super fun to try to grab the edge. Okay, here we are. All right. And with that, our necklace is finished. So you have this nice beaded segment with all the planets. You've got your sun, you've got your stars, and you've got a double chain end here with a magnet clasp. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. And if you're already a subscriber, then you got this box for $22.99. If you're not and you don't have it, you can find it while supplies last at our sister store, beadboxbargains.com, for $29.99 with free shipping in the US. But I'd love to see what you make with it. We have a Facebook group, the Bargain Beadbox Creative Corner, and you will see so many amazing designs there from our incredibly talented members as well. So check it out and feel free to like and subscribe here as well. Thank you so much again for watching, and happy beading!